Hi students, I am back with a new topic from your English textbook, Father Returning Home by Dilip Chitre. Students, Dilip Chitre was an Indian poet and he was a celebrated bilingual poet and a translator with a remarkable work in Marathi and English. His versatile creativity extends to painting, filmmaking, and his notable contribution as a magazine columnist. He received the Sahitya Academy Award for both poetry as well as his well-known translation work, Says Tuka. It's a Abhangas, the spiritual poem, godly poems by Sant Tukaram. The major themes of his poem are exile, alienated, self-disintegration, death, loneliness. These are his themes of the poem. And student, Dilip Chitre is considered as a well-known Indian poet in the Indian literature. Here, Father Returning Home. This poem has been inspired by poet's father Purushottam Chitre. When Dilip Chitre's father brought his family from Baroda to Bombay in the year 1957, Dilip Chitre, he was attached to that place in Baroda where they used to stay on hilly area with surrounded by wonderful trees, lots of greenery. When they came to Bombay, when his father Purushottam Chitre brought his family in Bombay, they were very bugged up with the lifestyle of Bombay. And Purushottam Chitre, he was so much engrossed in his work. So here Dilip Chitre shares with us how his relation and his siblings' relation with their father Purushottam Chitre. So let's do this poem. Firstly, I tell you that in this poem there are 2 stanzas and each stanzas contains 12 lines. So on the whiteboard you can see the first part of the poem Father Returning Home. So let's come with the first I am going to read these lines and then we will understand the poem thoroughly. Father Returning Home by Dilip Chitre. My father travels on the late evening train, standing among the silent commuters in the yellow light. Suburbs slide past his unseeing eyes. His shirt and pants were soggy and his black raincoat stained with mud and his bag stuffed with books is falling apart. His eyes, dim by age, fade homeward through the humid monsoon night. Now I can see him getting off the train like a word dropped from a long sentence. He hurries across the length of the grey platform, crosses the railway line enters the lane. His chappals are sticky with mud, but he hurries onward. Now students, when I read the first part of the poem, you have understood what is the poem about. Student, as I told you, Dilip Chitre's major themes in his poem is all about loneliness, isolation. So here is one of the themes used in this poem where Dilip Chitre talks about his father whose life was full of loneliness. Despite having family, wife, children, but his life was dull, monotonous, exhaustion, and equally pitiable daily routine. So now student, here in the first line you can see, my father travels on the late evening train. The first line tells us that Dilip Chitre's father, he used to work in town and he used to travel by train, and he left his office, boarded the train, and he was in the train, late evening train, around 7 p.m., 8 p.m. train, standing among the silent commuters. Now here the commuters, the person who travel from one place to another. In the yellow light, suburbs slide past his unseeing eyes. Now here the poet Dilip Chitre tells us, he's giving a pictorial quality, he's giving us an imagery of his father who is inside the train, standing in the train, and he's describing the surrounding, that he's standing in the yellow light. If you have seen, in olden days the local train used to have yellow light. Now we have nice tube lights, white light, but earlier there used to be yellow light. So here Dilip Chitre's father, he's holding the handle in the train and standing near the door, and his eyes is down. You can see this line, suburbs slide past his unseeing eyes. Means he's seeing the things are passing. When we are in the train, we see things passing by. So he's not noticing anything. He's just standing very tired, very dull in the train. His shirt and pants were soggy, and his black raincoat stained with mud, and his bag stuffed with books is falling apart. Now here the poet describes his father dull life, monotonous life, boring life, very tedious life. Now here he is saying that night it was raining very heavily, and his father shirt and pant, they were soggy, they were very wet, and the raincoat which he was wearing, because of the rain and because of the vehicle passing on the road, it all mud stained. It was stuck with all mud. Now here the poet tells us the sorry state of his father, that how he travels, how he comes back from his office, and what not he faces on the way is falling apart. Now here he is carrying a bag, and his bag is stuffed with books, which is overwhelming, means coming out completely. His eyes dimmed by age. Now here Dilip Chitre tells us the age of his father, that he is growing old, and there you can see on his face the dullness. His eyes is dim, he cannot see things clearly. Fade homeward means now he is coming back from office towards his homeward, through the humid in Hindi we say nami, monsoon night. Now here describing, it's very humidity. It was monsoon night, it was raining. Monsoon means a rainy season. Now I can see him getting off the train. Now Dilip Chitre's father's train stopped at his destination. Now he got down from the train. Now here this line is describing like a word dropped from a long sentence. Now here the poet Dilip Chitre tells us that the value of his father in the compartment, means in the compartment all the people who were traveling, they were all working men, and he got down, nobody noticed, nobody bothered, he got down from the train. That's why he's saying a word dropped from a long sentence where nobody noticed, nobody bothered. He hurries across the length of the grey platform, and as soon as he got down from the train, he was walking hurriedly because he wanted to reach home, because he was bugged up with the traveling, going to office, working 9 hours there, traveling late night in the train, raining heavily, it's a humidity outside, his pants, his shirts were completely wet, his black raincoat with mud stain. Now here student, you can see the poet has used the word black raincoat. Here also it shows that his life was colorless. There was no color in his life. He was just a body meant to work and look after his family. There is nothing, enthusiasm in his life. He hurries across the length of the grey platform. Now here, the poet has used the grey platform. We all know grey, the platform is grey. Whenever you go to station, the color of the platform is grey. But here, in this context, the poet means, it shows about the dullness in his life, monotonous life, boring life. He hurries across the length of the grey platform. Means he was walking, he was, praying, when this platform will get over and I'll reach home. Crosses the railway line, enters the lane. Then he crossed the railway line and enters in the lane that towards his home. His chappals are sticky. He was not bothered. He was walking. His chappals were sticky with mud. But he hurries onward. He was not bothering whether his chappals were with mud, his leg was with mud. He wanted to reach home anyhow. So now students, here in 12 lines, what have we studied? We have studied the sorry state of the poet's father. Right? Sorry state of the poet's father. And we have seen his life is dull. Yes. Monotonous means boring. Yes. And he was, bored with his daily routine. If you will see him, you will feel pity. With Purushottam Chitre. So now students, as I told you, the theme of this poem is all about isolation and loneliness. And here we have seen that in the 12 lines, the poet has described his father's condition. And you have seen that he was in the train, and the word have used here silent commuters. Even he was a silent commuter. He was not bothered to talk to anybody. He just wanted to get down on his destination and hurries towards his home. So now students, let's see the figures of speech in this 12 line. So here you can see standing among silent commuters in the yellow light. So now student, you can see here the letter S. has been repeated twice. So whenever you see a letter repeats in a sentence, that figure of speech is alliteration. So this line is alliteration. Please write correct spelling of alliteration. Okay. Suburbs slide past his unseeing eyes. You can see here SS. So again this is alliteration. I told you the meaning of unseeing eyes means not noticing anything. He's just standing near the gate in the train near the gate, but he was not noticing what is passing by. His shirt and pants were soggy and his black raincoat stained with mud and his bag stuffed with books. So here also you can see, student, S, and you can see here his and his. So here the word has repeated as well as letter has repeated. So in this we have alliteration. When letter repeats, the figure of speech is alliteration. When the word repeats, so that is repetition. Letter repeats, alliteration. Word repeats, it's repetition. See the correct spelling. It's R-E-P-E-T-I-T-I-O-N. Stained with mud and his bag stuffed with books. So you can see here again S and S. Okay. Again alliteration. Is falling apart. His eyes dim by age. Let's move on. Fade homeward through the humid monsoon night. Now here you can see, student, again here H repeated. So this is alliteration. And student, this line is also transferred epithet. Epithet means adjective. Now here, fade homeward through the humid monsoon night. Now here, humid is used for night. Students, here the night is not humid, but the poet has used it for night. But in actual meaning, the humid is what? Weather. When you see the transfer from noun to adjective, that is called transferred epithet. So here humid is not night but the weather. It is transferred epithet. Now I can see him getting off the train here like a word dropped from a long sentence. Now here the father is directly compared with a word. So here we have simile. S-I-M-I-L-E. Okay. He hurries across the length of the grey platform. Now students, we all know what is grey platform. When you walk on the platform, you can see the color of the grey. But in this context, the poet means like a dull life, monotonous life. So here, these words are substituted by the actual meaning, that is dullness and monotonous. So here this figure of speech is metonymy. Once again I say, why it is metonymy? Because we all know what is grey platform, but here the poet has used, see now, the length of the grey platform. So here he means, the actual meaning of this sentence is monotonous life, dull life, boring life. But here he has used grey platform. He has substituted the word with the actual meaning. It is called metonymy. Crosses the railway line, enters the lane. His chappals are sticky with mud. You can see here, he hurries across the length of the grey platform, crosses the railway line, enters the lane. So you can see here in these two lines, the ideas are arranged systematically. So this is called climax. It is called climax. His chappals are sticky with mud but he hurries onward. So here his and he meant one meaning. So here it is called tautology. So students, whenever you see two words having one meaning, it's called tautology. Come to this line, student. Suburbs slide past his unseeing eyes. I told you this is alliteration, but it can also be called as paradox. Why it can be called as paradox, student? How can suburbs slide past his unseeing eyes? How can you have eyes and you cannot see? So this statement is little absurd. Whenever you see a very absurd or very weird statement, that figure of speech is paradox. How can you see unseeing eyes? You know, unseeing eyes. Eyes is there and unseeing. So this is something very absurd, very weird statement. That is called paradox. Right? I told you transferred epithet, student. Why it is transferred epithet? Because here humid is used for night, but humid monsoon night. But here actually night is not humid. The weather is humid. It is transferred. It's transferred epithet. Then I told you about metonymy. Metonymy because here grey platform. What is the actual meaning of the grey platform? What the poet mean with the grey platform? He means dullness, monotonous. But he has used here grey platform. He has substituted the actual meaning. That is called metonymy. Got it? So here in the first part of Father Returning Home, we have learned, I have mentioned here, what did it tell us? What does it tell us? It tells us about the sorry state of the poet's father. It means of his dull life, boring life. So here in this part we have learned that, and the poetic devices, figure of speech, okay. And I told you there are certain lines over here that gives us a imagery, a picture quality. Now, for example, standing among the silent commuters in the yellow light. When you read this line, it gives you the image in your brain. He's standing on the platform. He's in the train. He's holding the handle. Yes, yellow light in the train. So it gives us a pictorial quality. If in the examination you are asked, pick out the lines that shows the pictorial quality, you can say here, standing among the silent commuters in the yellow light, his shirt and pants were soggy and his black raincoat. These are all pictorial, giving us an image. So now students will study the second part of the poem Father Returning Home. On the whiteboard, I have written the second part of the poem Father Returning Home by Dilip Chitre. Now first I am going to read these lines and then we will understand line wise. Home again I see him drinking wheat tea, eating stale chapati, reading a book. He goes into the toilet to contemplate man's estrangement from a man-made world. Coming out, he trembles at the sink. The cold water running over his brown hands, a few droplets cling to the graying hair on his wrist. His sullen children have often refused to share jokes and secrets with him. He will now go to sleep listening to the static on the radio, dreaming of his ancestors and grandchildren, thinking of nomads entering a subcontinent through a narrow pass. So now students, in the first part, we have studied about the sorry state, the bad state of poet's father, Purushottam Chitre. You know, how he described the dullness in his life. He was in the train. He was not bothered of talking to anybody. He was not bothered of seeing things going by, passing by. He was not noticing anything. Yes, he was not even bothered that he is wet. His shirt and pants are wet. His black raincoat is full of mud. He's not bothered about himself. And the last two lines talks about hurries. He hurries homeward. The word hurries shows escapism. Means he was escaping the situation. He was running, he was walking fast so that he can reach home. He was not even bothered that he was crossing the railway line. He was so eager to meet his family members. But when he comes home, what happens? Home again, I see him drinking weak tea. Now here, the meaning of again shows the daily routine. Home again. Every day morning he goes, every day evening he comes. That is why the poet has used here home again. And now you can see this line, I see him drinking weak tea. It means the tea was not made fresh. Why? How come a family treats the main person, the head of the family, in such a way? How can you serve? How can you cater to someone who is responsible for your livelihood? Students, our parents, like your father, my father, they all work. They earn money so that they can give us a better life, better standard of living. But what in return they expect from us? They expect love. They expect affection. But here, the poet tells us that I see him drinking weak tea, means he was served tea which was made long hours ago. Why? Eating stale chapati, basi, stale chapati, reading a book. So now here, these two lines again tells us the bad state of the father. The person is already got bored from his daily routine, going to office, coming back, traveling. You know, students, traveling kills. But still, he travels. He gets up early in the morning. He goes to office, reaches there on time. Why? So that he can work hard and earn money and spend on children. But when he comes back home, he is treated in this way. He is given what? Weak tea, stale chapati. But here, the father is not cribbing. He ate what he was served. In the last stanza, the first stanza, the last two lines, we have seen father hurries onward to reach home. Why he was hurrying? Why he was walking hurriedly? Because he wanted to meet his family. But when he came home, he was treated in this way. He was not given the fresh food. He goes into the toilet to contemplate. Contemplate means think deeply. He was in a deep thought. Means he did not get someone to share the small space of the toilet. He was thinking about his life, about present and future. Why, children? Why parents are neglected? Why? The person is slogging for you day and night so that you can have better life, and your father is sitting in the toilet and he's thinking over there. Why? Why there is no one to share? And what is the use of repenting now? So here Dilip Chitre, he is repenting that how his father was treated. He goes into the toilet to contemplate man's estrangement from a man-made world. Estrangement means, student, loneliness. In this world, we are born, and when we are born, we get associated with so many relations. Father, mother, brother, sister. Then we grow up, we have wife, we have children. So many people around, but still the man is under estrangement, loneliness. Why? Why? Why was the poet behave in such a way with the father? Coming out, he trembles at the sink. When he came out of the toilet, his hand was shivering. I told you in the first stanza, his eyes dimmed. It revealed his age. He's old. He came, his hand, he's washing his hand. He's at the wash basin. Sink means wash basin. His hand is trembling because he's old. The cold water running over his brown hand. Now here, the poet is describing the color of the father. Brown hand, his washing hand in the wash basin. And his hand is shivering. A few droplets cling. Cling means touch each other to the graying hair on his wrist. This is called wrist. And you can see, we all have black hair. But when we grow old, this hair, our wrist hair will turn grey. Graying hair on his wrist. His sullen children, sullen means angry children, have often refused to share jokes and secrets with him. So now, student, here this stanza describes what? A forced alienation at home. Alienation means loneliness at home. So what this stanza describe? What? A forced loneliness. We can also call alienation at home. A forced loneliness at home. How we come to know that he is even lonely at home? With the word stale chapati and weak tea. Even this man is not getting love at home where he deserves to get. Family members, they exchange love with each other because we are blood relation. But still here the father was not showered with that love from his family members. So here the theme is a forced loneliness at home. Akelapan. The cold water, okay, this is done. His sullen children have often refused to share jokes and secrets with him. When he came out from the washroom, from the toilet, he again expected his children will come to him and they will share, they will joke with him, they will share some about their secrets to him, but nothing happened. They were all busy at their own place. They were not bothered, they did not even witness the presence of their father. He was left like a furniture in the house, overlooked by their own children. He will now go to sleep. Now he will go to his room, he will go on his bed and he will remove a radio, listening to the static on the radio. Now here the radio is also in such a bad state that having lots of sound, noisy. Static means sound on the radio. Poor condition of the radio. Then he will dream. Then again he will go in deep thought and dream about whom? Of his ancestors, about his grandfather, about his great-grandfather, great-great-grandfather, ancestors, forefathers he will think. And he will also think about the grandchildren, his own children's children, he will think about them, about their future. Thinking of nomads. Nomads here means Aryans. You know that, student? You have studied in history. Yes? We have Dravidians and Aryans. Aryans, they came and they settled in north, and Dravidians are all in the south. So he talks about the nomads, the Aryans entering subcontinent through a narrow pass. He is thinking about what? History. He is thinking about how these Aryan, they entered in the subcontinents in the small space and how they lived their life. What made him to think this? This is very painful alienation they talk about. That how people came here, they established themselves, they have created so materialistic thing in the world with so much of technology, with so much of relations. But still man is lonely. So now, student, in this poem we have learned father's loneliness, deprived of love and affection from the family. He is already bored with his job, with his monotonous life. But when he comes home, he faces the same thing. Students, it is our duty to look after our old parents. But I have seen when children grow, when they get married, they leave their old parents behind. Some, they leave them where? At the old age home. Why? It is rightly said that one parent, one parent will look after 10 children, but one child will not look after one parent, or 10 children will not look after one parent. So student, here we have to understand what Dilip Chitre is trying to tell us. We are blessed that we have parents, and that house is the blessed house where they have old parents at home. We must have oldies in our family to bestow us and bestow our family for goodwill, good happenings in the house. The students, I tell you that, however, whatever relationship you have with your parents, please behave well, respect them, love them, sit with them, share with them, joke with them, spend time with them. They don't need anything, they just need love. Please love them, be with them, spend time with them. Once they will go, only one thing will remain, that is repent. Pachtaoge. That thing should not be there. Okay, so now we'll see the poetic device figures of speech in this line. Home again, I see him drinking weak tea. Now here tea is given a human quality of being weak. So here we have figure of speech, personification. Okay. Eating stale chapati, reading a book. So now here you can see these two lines. I see him drinking weak tea, eating stale chapati, reading a book. So the two lines, you can see the commas, ideas are arranged in ascending order. So this is my climax. Climax. Okay. Now stale chapati. Now chapati, of course the father will not eat only chapati, or with chapati there will be a sabzi, vegetable, dal and rice. But here chapati is a part of food representing the whole food. Whenever any part that represents the whole, that figure of speech is called synecdoche. 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 Okay. Once again I am telling, eating stale chapati. Chapati is a part of food, the wholesome food. Chapati, sabzi, then rice, dal. So these are the, chapati is a part. A part is representing a whole food, that is called synecdoche. He goes into the toilet to contemplate. So you can see here T, T, T. So here we have letter T has been repeated thrice. So here it is, we can write alliteration. Okay, it's an alliteration. Man's estrangement from a man-made world. So you can see M, M, M. Again, this is alliteration. Coming out, he trembles at the sing. This is again inversion. The prose is not in the correct order. The cold water running over his brown hands, his hand, again the sound, alliteration. Okay. Then his sullen children have refused to share jokes and secrets with him. Okay, here we don't have anything. Listening to the static on the radio. Now this means noisy, irritating sound. It's expressing a sound. This is onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia. Okay, listening to the static on the radio, dreaming of his ancestors and grandchildren, thinking of nomad entering a subcontinent. These three lines, ideas are arranged in ascending order. So this is climax. Okay, this is climax. So now students, we have studied this poem thoroughly. I told you what is the poem about. Okay, I told you the major themes Dilip Chitre keeps in his, poems is all about loneliness, death, self-degradation, exile. So here in this poem, the theme of the poem is loneliness, alienation, especially where he get disheartened of forced loneliness at home. See, a person can face fatal outside from his friend, from his boss, from whatsoever, whomsoever. But when someone, like in a family, when they give us pain, it hurts the most. So keep loving your parents, students. Okay, so now we have done everything in this poem, and whatever doubts you have, you can ask me. Thank you for watching this video.